Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update. Today is Monday, November 13th. We're very happy to have you with us here today. We're going to touch on a number of issues that we think have some resonance. We'll recap what happened on Election Day last Tuesday. We'll talk about the county budget, which we've just presented to the Board of Legislators. We had a major announcement about that last Thursday. I'll be joined by Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive, and we'll go over some of the issues, certainly what's happening in our parks. The Great American Smokeout is coming up, and Albanian Independence Day that we're going to recognize, also Diwali. And our guest, who I'll introduce in a second, is the mayor of the village of Pelham, Chance Mullen. So we're happy to have him here. We're also going to give you an update on where we are with union negotiations, as that has become an issue out in the community, and try to address it straightforwardly. First, we'll bring on our guest from our various municipal partner programs every week. We invite somebody from one of the villages, towns, or cities to join us, talk a little bit about their community. There are 45 incorporated entities across Westchester County. They range from the size of Yonkers, over 200,000 people, down to the village of Buchanan, 2,000 people. And there's a wide range from the northern part of the county to the southern part of the county. And I think we get a kick out of knowing a little bit more about the parts of the county that we may not live in or travel in to the greatest extent. Our guest today is the mayor of the village of Pelham, Chance Mullen. And the village of Pelham is one part of the town of Pelham. Now, this gets confusing. Hang on. Town of Pelham has two incorporated entities in it, the Village of Pelham and the Village of Pelham Manor. The Pelham town government serves certain functions as required by state law, but most of the basic functions that the people who live in either of the two villages rely on, police, sanitation, fire, and so forth, are provided through the local village government. There's an analogy of this also elsewhere in the county, where the town of Rye has a similar situation with the villages that comprise that town. Chance is just been reelected last week to his third term as mayor of the village, 2-year term, and he served one term as trustee, member of the Board of Trustees before that, so he's well experienced in Pelham government. He's done a terrific job in that position for the 7,300 people that reside in the village. If you get off the train in Pelham, that's the village of Pelham. And as you walk up and down, the main street, Fifth Avenue, and you see the Gazebo Park, the Durango Townhouse, and other activities, the farmers market that was there. I stopped by there yesterday, and where the seniors meet at the Durango Townhouse, all of that is the village of Pelham. And it's a wonderful village indeed. And as I say every week, great restaurants. So without any other further ado, let me introduce the mayor of the village of Pelham, the Honorable Chance Mullen. Chance, very much happy to have you here today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, County Executive Latimer. It's good to be with you and with everyone here today. The last time I was here, I spoke about the work we're doing to revitalize Pelham's downtown. We're building new housing, new public parking, a new municipal center, which is under construction now, new storefronts. There's a lot of construction happening. We've got a new building opening its doors and leasing up right now at 139 Fifth Avenue. But today, I'm really here to invite everyone listening to come and see it for yourselves. If you've never been in Pelham during the holidays, you owe it to yourself to come and see just how beautiful it is. And we officially kick off the holiday season next Saturday, November 25th, which happens to be Small Business Saturday. Here's the kind of lineup that I'm talking about. First thing in the morning, on the 25th, we're bringing back the Pelham Half Marathon and 10K, which is an annual event that's organized by Pelham Civics. That's one of our local nonprofits. Very, very fun race in Pelham, and it's grown in popularity over the years. Right now, we're projecting over 800 runners from all over the world. Folks from Sweden, England, Brazil, also people from this country. And it should be said, we also have some regular folks signing up for the race. It's 2 days after Thanksgiving, so if you're like me and you're trying to pre-schedule your workouts for that weekend, this is a great option. There's 2 races, a half marathon and a 10K. And even if you come across the finish line looking like someone who usually doesn't cross a lot of finish lines, everyone's going to treat you like a champion. The races are about 80% sold out at this point, but if you'd like to sign up, you can go to pelhamhalf.org, and you can just show up and cheer on the runners. Now, when the race is over, right after that ends, starting at noon, the Pelham Chamber of Commerce kicks off Winter Wonderland, and that is at Gazebo Park right in the middle of our downtown. It's a free event intended for families. We'll have a holiday market, horse and carriage rides, a petting zoo, face painting, video game truck, some carnival games. Santa is going to be there around 3:30. And then at the end of the day, starting at 5 o'clock, we all gather around the town of Pelham tree lighting for that ceremony. There are usually carols, lots of hugs, and then you can make your way to one of our many restaurants that are throughout our downtown. So we'll have free parking throughout the downtown all day that day, so please come and join us. And here's where I'll just pivot to a little bit of business. As County Executive Latimer knows, a few months ago, Pelham was chosen with a handful of other communities throughout Westchester to partner with the county on a downtown improvement project, which we are very grateful for. It's a pilot program, and it includes working with an outside consultant who will help us develop a plan for long-term growth and sustainability for our downtown businesses. And then once the plan is developed, the county has committed $250,000 toward helping us implement that plan. And we have already engaged our consultants in developing the plan. We're now about to release a survey that will go out on Facebook and Instagram to generate feedback from the broader public about what you like about our downtown, what you want to see more of, which kinds of businesses you want us to bring in. And here's the thing, if you come on November 25th and you get on Facebook and Instagram, I am told you will likely see the survey advertised if you're in the area. So please do share your perspective. And if you don't make it on the 25th, please do be on the lookout for the survey anyway. We will likely share it through county resources if we can as well. And we want to make the most of the opportunity that we can. So thank you for your partnership, County Executive Latimer, and a special thanks to Sherry Asher and Bridget Gibbons, as well as to our many nonprofits and the volunteers who've done so much to help enliven our downtown, folks at Pelham Civics, at the Chamber. I've said it before, I'll say it again, the best solutions for our economy don't come from Albany or DC. The best solutions go to Albany and DC, and they start at the local level and the county level with people just on the ground doing everything they can to make sure that that our local businesses have a few more customers coming in around this time of year. So that's the spirit you've brought to this, George, and I thank you for the opportunity to share it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chance.
Thank you.
Pleasure to be with you. Thank you. That's Chance Mullen, Mayor of the Village of Pelham, and we thank him for his leadership and his team's leadership, and we look forward to partnering with you in the new year on any number of other initiatives that'll be helpful for our communities. And we look forward to our continued relationship with all the municipalities. We congratulate those who have won over the course of the most recent election. We're going to go over a list of those in just a couple of minutes, and also salute those who ran, even if they weren't successful. They made a sacrifice as part of our democratic small d system. But we again thank Mayor Chance Mullen for being with us today. I want to touch on our situation with labor unions. It's come into play, and I think it's worth giving you a little update as to where we stand. Westchester County has a number of different public unions that we contract with. Most of our labor force is a unionized labor force. There are some individuals who are not members of unions, and they are non-represented managerial positions. And with each of these different situations, whenever there's any change in the pay structure, it has to be approved by the Board of Legislators and signed into action by myself as county executive. We have a negotiating team headed by a contractual arrangement that we have with Vince Toomey, who handles the day-to-day negotiations for us as an outside consultant. He's a lawyer and his team, and they do this for other municipalities as well. So it's a professional negotiating team, and it really takes things to the level of following the very strict labor laws that exist in New York State. We have the Taylor Law, which was passed a number of years ago, which sort of sets some of the ground rules for how these things work. The executive branch in any government negotiates with the unions. They come up with some arrangement. If the union ratifies it, it goes before the legislative body for approval, and then it goes into effect for whatever length of time that is. So that you understand what that looks like in its totality, here are the various unions that we have. We have Westchester County CSEA, which is the largest union by far. Roughly 3/4 of all of our county employees, our base of employees, over 4,000 employees, are members of CSEA. We have negotiated with them, and we are on contractual arrangements with them through the end of the year 2027. Now, when we came into office, there was a 7-year gap between my predecessor's administration and closing the arrangements with that union. We had a very difficult measure to close that gap with a number of out years, but we did that successfully, and they agreed to a rollover for 1 year, and now we've recently, earlier this year, completed negotiations, so they're on contract through 2027. We have a group of nurses that we saw up close and personal. Most of them work in our Department of Health, but some of them are elsewhere in the county government and some of the other departments, DSS notably, and they are members of the New York State Nurses Association, NYSNA, and that we've had negotiations with them. We've closed those negotiations successfully through the end of the year 2026. So they are on contract, and each of these different unions have different increases. They also have certain benefits that are unique to what they do, and certain incentive payments that deal with longevity or certain levels of professional experience. We have a number of Teamsters who are organized in Westchester County. They represent one particular department of our county government, and we've had negotiations that have come to successful closure there. They are on contract through the end of 2025, this being the end of 2023. So we have to 27 on CSEA, we have through the end of 26 on nurses, and we have through the end of 25 on Teamsters. And those three unions are in certain ways considered sort of the white-collar unions or the pink-collar unions of our government. We also have to approve, although we do not negotiate, the CSEA chapter and the Federation of Teachers who are negotiating with the Westchester Community College, but the county has to approve those contracts, and for both teachers and for CSEA, we await successful closure from the community college, and then the county executive and the county legislature reviews those contracts and puts them to bed. We have an additional 5 unions that are in the law enforcement lane, and law enforcement positions are seen as different type of responsibilities, and they're compared to other law enforcement unions around the country, around the state, which are very different from some of the other ones. We have in our police PBA, Police Benevolent Association, then we have a Superior Officers PBA, and the negotiations for both of those two unions have been successfully concluded a while back, and they are on contract through the end of this year, 2023. So we would begin negotiations with them for future years to follow. We recently announced, we had a press conference to recently announce that we have closed our past arrangements with DA investigators. These are the people who work for the district attorney, do investigative work. They're all former police officers, and but they have a special function, and they're a special union, and they had last had a contract closed at 2019, and we were able to close that through 2023. So they will be current up to the end of 23, and we begin negotiations going forward, except that we added an extra year. They close at the end of 24 now, and so the conversations will take us beyond that. We have now, as you see, some dialogue in the public sector, certainly on social media outlets and in other ways, that the correction officers and the correction superior officers are the remaining union, or unions, there's 2 of them, superior officers and correction officers, that have not closed. Their contracts last ended in 2019. It is not our practice to negotiate out in public. There's a structure and a format for these negotiations. We have not truly gone very deeply in our conversations with them. The conversations actually started not that long ago, even though the contract went out in 2019. It was the decision by union leaders to open up conversations a little further down the line. They wanted to see, frankly, what other unions were getting. And many times correction officers look at what the police officers get and want a pattern off of the police officers. Because the union was 4 years out, 2020, 21, 22, and 23 years. We're almost at the end of 23. We made some informal discussions with them and some informal offers to stay on the same pattern as what the DA investigators and the police have done, and COBRA was not interested in going in that direction. That would have involved them being brought up to the end of 23 and continuing negotiations forward. We're now at a situation, obviously, where there's much discussion and a bit of Sturm und Drang out there. This is the nature of negotiations. Anybody who's ever done negotiations understands there's a certain amount of theatrics to it, and there's a certain amount of positioning that happens. It does not offend me personally. I understand that that's part of the arrangement. What I do want to highlight is that as the correction officers want to have what they would call a fair arrangement, every union wants a fair arrangement by their standards, they have asked for the highest level of compensation of any of our county employees, and they've also asked for other benefits they don't have right now. The current contract that they're operating under was not negotiated by our administration, it was negotiated by the prior administration, and there was some givebacks that occurred in the negotiations that happened prior to that, also from the prior administration. So many of the correction officers are unhappy over those arrangements. They'd like those concessions to be made, but let's be clear, they were not imposed by our administration, they were imposed previously, and they were agreed to at the time by the membership. So what you're looking to do is sit at the table and change the rules under which certain things happen in healthcare and other things. We are a flexible administration. We've talked to every one of these other unions, and when you start out, the first session is never the last session. You begin with them asking for X, and you're prepared to do Y, and then the negotiations get you to a common ground at some point in time. We've been able to successfully do that with CSEA, Teamsters, nurses, Superior Police, regular police, DA investigators, and we've authorized, when positioned to us, the two unions that are at the community college. So we have this particular situation that has not yet reached fruition. I say that because many times in the process of this sort of theatrical situation, bad faith is imputed. And I would argue that we have not yet truly begun to exchange positions because there are certain things that the union wants and there are certain things that the county wants. And in a negotiation, nobody gets everything they want, and you have to determine how much you're willing to give in order to get certain things and what's important to your membership, what isn't important to your membership as we go forward. There is no question that every county employee does a job that's important for the public service in every one of the different areas. And I don't doubt for one second how difficult it is to be a correction officer or a superior correction officer. They are serving their county in a tremendous way. I would not say that because one county official serves in one capacity that it demeans the service of somebody else. Our nurses that went into private homes to do COVID tests, not knowing what the extent of this disease was, they too served Westchester County. We have individuals who work in different departments of county government and go through some very difficult circumstances in their work. And some of those CSEA members are involved in the Parks Department. They're involved in the Department of Environmental Facilities. They too make sacrifices for the jobs that they have. So we don't want to try to weigh out this job is so much better than the other job. And certainly our police officers provide a very essential service to all of us. So our position as a government is to negotiate with each of the different unions, to respect them, and to try to find common ground. And common ground does mean a give and a take. And anybody who's ever negotiated, if you've ever haggled over a sweater or a scarf at a flea market, if you had negotiations over the house that you bought or over a used car that you ever bought, it's never on the first round that you settle on the price. There's always a back and a forth, and that is part of the process. Some people actually like that. They enjoy the haggling back and forth before something gets done. But where we are today is we have completed negotiations and are on contract through the end of the year with all of our unions, with the exception of correction officers and superior officers. We're right now reaching out to set up a date to sit down at the bargaining table, have those discussions, their opening offer, our opening offer, and then we go from there. I remain confident that we will come to closure, and there is a process that involves arbitration and mediation and other things if it gets to that. And if it goes through that process, we will follow the legal process. The Westchester County Board of Legislators does not have a role to play in the negotiating phase of this, but when an agreement has been made, if it's been ratified by the union, then it goes before the board for their approval. And they have the right to accept or reject the final contract put before them. And if it's already been negotiated and it's already been approved by the union, almost always it is approved by the legislature as well. But we'll have those discussions in the days to come. This matters a lot to you if you are a family member or an actual member of one of these unions. If you're outside of that, you certainly want the public service that these individuals provide. If they're a nurse, if they're a Teamster, if they're a member of CSEA, if they're a police officer, correction officer, DA investigator. But you also pay the tab, as do I, as a taxpayer. And we have a fiduciary responsibility. This I learned long before government in my years in corporate life. Our fiduciary responsibility is to make sure that we spend money as wisely as we can. And I think we've shown over the prior 4 years, as we've cut the general tax levy for the county. This year we have a frozen general tax levy. Let's not confuse that with the special districts. Those are two separate entities and how they're funded. But when we're able to bring in a zero for the general tax levy after years of reduction of it, that shows fiscal management, fiscal prudence, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a second. So it's important to understand that when the workforce wants certain benefits, there's a price attached to that. We have to be sure that we can afford to pay the price because the taxpayers will ultimately be footing the bill in the way they submit taxation, whether it's sales taxation, property taxation, mortgage recording, hotel occupancy tax, whatever those revenue streams are that come into the county government. Suffice to say, we have professionals negotiating on this. We look forward to working with the remaining two unions in a spirit of cooperation. We understand there's differences of opinions, and we understand that certain members of these unions feel very strongly. They have a right to feel strongly. We have a right to try to negotiate those differences out and try to get to closure. And that's what we intend to do. So that is an update as where we are in terms of our correction officers. Now, I want to give a rundown with Ken as to what happened in our electoral races that just happened. Most people, when they think about elections, start out by thinking about the presidential race, which comes every 4 years. We're now slightly under a year away from the 2024 presidential election, and it occupies everybody's attention. We get the greatest voter turnout for the presidency by far. Whatever else is on the ballot has the benefit of those people coming out for the presidency, and then they wind up going down ticket for state legislative and congressional legislators and so forth. In the odd-numbered year, where we're not voting for people for Congress, we see a dramatic drop-off in attention. And it's sort of ironic because the people you put on the village board, on the town board, in the county legislature, we're the ones that have at least some direct influence over your property taxes, how your policing is done, your fire services, your sanitation, your snow removal, the park system you have. The President of the United States has very little to do with those things. But the emotion and the way that the society completely is transfixed by the presidential election just has no equal. And so the voting turnout is much lower in these years. So we want to go over with you how these things turned out. And first I'll have Ken cover some of the countywide races, which were very low this year in Westchester County. They amount to judicial races.
Thanks, George. So we're going to start out at the top of the ticket. The positions number 1 through 4 was for State Supreme Court Justice in the 9th Judicial District. The 9th Judicial District includes the counties of Westchester, Rockland, Putnam, Dutchess, and Orange. So that's the 9th Judicial District. There were 8 candidates for 4 seats. The winners of those were Justice Francesca Connolly, Justice Charlie Wood, Judge Larry Schwartz, and Judge Ralph Thorson, who are now Supreme Court justices, Justice-elect, and Justice Schwartz and Justice Thorson's cases. For the county court, we had 2 candidates running for county court, and Ann Bianchi from Mount Kisco is the new county court judge, and she is the winner in that regard. And pass back over to George to go through our county board of legislators.
Thanks, Ken. So the Westchester County Board of Legislators is the legislative body for Westchester County. It sounds like this is going to be on the final exam. Each district represents about 55,000 people across the county and is made up of certain component municipalities. And the districts are numbered, but the numbers may not necessarily be things that are in your head. The geography is what you know. Of the 17 seats, we had a number of incumbents who ran. Each of the incumbents who ran were successful, and we do have some new members coming on board. We'll identify them as we go forward. In the first county legislative district, Colin Smith, the incumbent, was successful, a Democrat, over his challenger, Joe Torres. We also have in the second legislative district an unopposed race that covers the northeastern corner of Westchester County, Bedford, Lewisboro, Poundridge, North Salem, part of Somers, and Mount Kisco. Erica Lang Pierce was elected to her second term in office. She is a Democrat. In the third county legislative district that covers the town of North Castle and the town of Mount Pleasant, including the villages of Pleasantville and a portion of Sleepy Hollow, Margaret Kunzio, conservative and Republican, won, and she ran without opposition. opposition. In the 4th County Legislative District, Vedat Gashi was the winner. He is a Democrat. He defeated Daniel Brenda, and Mr. Gashi represents a district that is a significant part of Yorktown, a portion of Somers, and all of the town of Newcastle, which we commonly know as Chappaqua and Millwood. In the 5th Legislative District, Ben Boykin, who is a former chair of the Board of Legislators, was reelected to his 6th term, and he represents almost all of White Plains, all of Scarsdale, and a section of West Harrison. In the 6th Legislative District, Nancy Barr was elected, Democrat. She was unopposed. She's a resident of Rybrook, and that district includes Rybrook, Portchester, and the largest portion of the town of Harrison. The 7th Legislative District, that's the one I represented a long time ago, Catherine Parker, a Democrat from the city of Rye, was successful. She defeated Katie Manger, and that district is all of the city of Rye, all of the village of Mamaroneck, the town of Mamaroneck, the village of Larchmont, and a section of the town village of Harrison. In the 8th Legislative District, Jewel Williams Johnson was elected. She was unopposed, a Democrat. That district is the northern portion of Greenburgh, going from west to east. It includes the villages of Tarrytown and Elmsford, the Fairview section, and the North Elmsford sections of Greenburgh, and she has some of the city of White Plains adjacent in the downtown area, adjacent to that portion of Greenburgh, and a piece of Sleepy Hollow as well. The 9th Legislative District, we have a new legislator, Catherine Borgia, the predecessor, completed term-limited 6 terms of service. Emiliana Ulaj, who is a resident of Croton-on-Hudson, was successful, and she defeated Lori Abate Ryan. And Emiliana will represent a district that is the town of Ossining, the village of Ossining, a little piece of the village of Briarcliff Manor is in that. And then she has a section of the town of Cortland that includes the hamlet of Verplank and the incorporated village of Buchanan. The 10th Legislative District was a competitive race. It was an open seat as well. Damon Marr, the current county legislator, leaves office at the end of this year. He will be replaced by Judah Holstein, Democrat from Eastchester. That district includes the bulk of the city of New Rochelle, the north end, but even into the central part of the city. It includes the unincorporated section of Eastchester and then the village of Tuckahoe, which falls in the town of Eastchester, and he was successful in that race. The 11th Legislative District includes the balance of New Rochelle and then all of Pelham, village of Pelham, Pelham Manor, which is the town of Pelham in the aggregate. Terry Clements, the Democrat, was reelected, defeating John Hines in that election district. In the 12th Legislative District, David Imamura, who won a special election earlier this year, first Asian American legislator in the board's history, was elected. That district includes a significant portion of the unincorporated section of Greenburgh, including Hartsdale and Edgemont sections, and then the incorporated villages along the river, Irvington, Dobbs Ferry, and Hastings, as well as the village of Ardsley. And he was elected without opposition. The 13th Legislative District is wholly within the city of Mount Vernon. Tyree Woodson Samuels was reelected, Democrat reelected to his 2nd term, representing that district. The 14th District is the eastern edge of Yonkers, the southeastern edge of Yonkers, McLean Avenue, Bronx River Road, and the areas directly to the west of that, and the west side and part of the north side of the city of Mount Vernon. And that district, District 14, was won by David Tubiolo, who was reelected without opposition. The 15th Legislative District covers the village of Bronxville, the northeastern and northern tier of the city of Yonkers, and James Nolan, the Republican, was reelected to that seat, defeating Ruth Walter, the Democratic candidate. The 16th Legislative District, which Ken knows well, having served it for a number of terms, Shanae Williams is the newly elected legislator. She defeated Debbie Kozek, and she represents a section of Yonkers that pivots on the west side but goes further east of the west side, and has been an opportunity district, and Shanae is leaving the Yonkers City Council as she now comes to the Westchester County Board of Legislators. And the final districts, glad we only have 17. There are counties that have 38 of these districts. The 17th district was won re-election by Jose Alvarado. That is the southwestern corner of Yonkers, and it stretches to some degree to the east. He was re-elected and defeated Jose Diaz, and so we have 15 Democrats, 2 Republicans, actually 1 conservative, with Republican backing and 1 Republican on the board. All who ran for re-election in November were successful, And we do have some new members of the board. As I mentioned, Shanae Williams is new, Emiliano Ulaj is new, Judah Holstein is new, and they'll go through some orientation. The existing members of the board will continue their service through the end of the year, and that includes Simra Brandon, who is serving an appointive term. At some point in time, I think perhaps they'll replace Simra with Shanae, but that'll all come to pass. We'll let the Board of Legislators make that announcement. But we've also had cities and village elections and town elections all across the county. The mayoralty of Yonkers, Mike Spano was reelected to that seat. Sean Patterson Howard was reelected as the mayor of Mount Vernon. Yadira Ramos Herbert is the new mayor of the city of New Rochelle. Vivian McKenzie, the mayor of Peekskill, was reelected. And we had councilmanic positions in all of those cities, including the cities of White Plains and Rye City. And then across the board, there were elections, as I said, in towns and villages. All of this is available on the website of the Board of Elections. They'll show you that votes which have come into place. There are a number of close elections that at this moment in time have not been determined to be resolved. None of these vote totals are official, but the gap is sufficient to be able to say a person has won or lost. We have a very close election in the town village of Harrison. On write-in votes, Ron Belmont, who is a former mayor, supervisor of Harrison, has a slight lead over Richard Dionisio, who's the current supervisor running on the Republican line. We will see how that turns out in the days to come. We have a close election in the village of Mount Kisco for one seat on the village board of trustees. We'll see how that is resolved. And there's also a very close race in the town of North Castle, where the Republican Barbara DiGiacinto and the Democrat Joe Rendy are literally one vote apart, one vote. Now, I've seen elections that were resolved by one vote, the village trustee race in Larchmont, my recollection, and there is on the books an election that ended in a dead tie after all of the ballots were certified. It was a village mayoralty in Tarrytown 20 years ago, at Irvington, 20 years ago. I don't know if they flipped a coin or they had a trivia question contest. It was straws, whoever drew the straw. And so it is possible that an election might come out with a one-vote victory for somebody or a dead-even vote. We'll see how that all plays out. When the Board of Elections has completed the canvass of the machines, the canvass of the absentee ballots, the machines including early voting as well as regular day of voting, and then they looked at all the absentee ballots. They have to be postmarked by Tuesday, but they could be received over a number of days afterwards to tomorrow, and then we'll see what the final total is, and those will be available for you to know. But again, we congratulate all the winners, and we want to thank all of those who competed. We both have been involved in running in races, and it's not an easy thing. You put yourself out there for an extended amount of days. You have to deal with whoever comes up to you. Some people may like what you're doing. Some people may not like what you're doing. You have to be able to handle adversity as well as prosperity. And at the end of the day, if you win, it's not like the Super Bowl where they give you a trophy and then you go take it easy. A victory now requires you to then go in and do the job that you have asked for the authority to do. Whether it's 2 years or 4 years, it's a busy period of time. So with that, we're going to shift over to a couple of other things. We're going to come back and talk about the budget in a second, but we'll let you catch your breath after the election report. I'll ask Ken to talk about the Great American Smokeout.
All right, thanks a lot, George. The Westchester County Department of Health reminds our residents that the Great American Smokeout that's going to be held this Thursday is a great day to quit smoking or vaping. Do you know lung cancer kills more people than any other cancer, and cigarette smoking is the #1 risk factor for lung cancer? That's according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. This is underscored in November by the American Lung Association during Lung Cancer Awareness Month. So, to reduce tobacco use in Westchester County, the County Health Department is partnering with 9 community organizations to support the county's tobacco-free program. Starting in January, the following programs will launch. Youth ambassadors in the Know Better, Live Better program will lead discussions with their peers about the risks of tobacco and vapes. Through games and activities, the Tar Wars program from the American Academy for Family Physicians raises awareness among 4th and 5th graders about tobacco marketing to kids and emphasizes the consequences of tobacco use. The Center for a Tobacco-Free Hudson Valley will train community members to lead Freedom from Smoking, an American Lung Association program with its specialized support groups to empower adults with knowledge and tools to overcome tobacco addiction. The County Health Department will help Freedom from Smoking participants access nicotine replacement therapies. And the department has also added staff and ramped up enforcement in our Adolescents Tobacco Use Prevention Act program in partnership with public safety park rangers, the cadets that collaborate with the county police and local municipalities police on a school-based prevention program. All of this because the American Cancer Society has promoted the third Thursday in November as the Great American Smokeout for more than 40 years. New York State offers free nicotine replacement patches, and all county residents can ask their doctor about prescription drugs that can help. Here are some other resources. You can call the New York State Smokers Quit line, and that number is on the screen, 1-866 New York Quits. The CDC Center for Disease Control at 1-800-QUIT-NOW. American Cancer Society support groups at 800-277-2345. The American Lung Association, you can find a clinic near you at 800-LUNG-USA. And you can also find meetings at Nicotine Anonymous for online or for virtual or for phone meetings. So again, third Thursday in November as the Great American Smokeout. Back to you, George.
Yeah. We'll continue with some of the light updates, and then we'll talk about the budget before we close. We have our annual holiday gift drive that begins tomorrow, this Tuesday, November 14th at 3:30 p.m. Our annual toy drive involves inviting unwrapped holiday gifts for the nearly 1,000 children who are cared for in our Westchester foster care program, protective services, preventive services, and homeless programs. You can help brighten the day of those kids, as we all know from our own youth, of how important it was to get a gift under the holiday tree, Christmas tree. You can also make a financial donation to the Westchester Child Welfare Holiday Fund. If you have an unwrapped toy that you want to donate, there will be donation boxes located here in our office building in downtown White Plains, the McKellen office building at 148 Martine Avenue. We will have a box located as well in some of our other DSS offices around the county. We have it at our Mount Vernon office, which is 100 East First Street, the Reginald Lafayette building. In Peekskill at a district office at 750 Washington Street in Peekskill. In Yonkers at the DSS district office at 131 Warburton Avenue, and then as well in downtown White Plains besides our office at 85 Court Street, which is right across the street, a White Plains district office, and then also at 112 East Post Road in White Plains. So you can bring a gift to any of those locations, drop them off, and they will be in the hands of some child that will really want it at the holiday season. Gift donations are requested from babies up to the age of 21. No stuffed animals, and no violent toys. And again, monetary donations are graciously accepted. You can do it in gift cards, Zelle, cash, checks made payable to the Westchester Child Welfare Holiday Fund. Ken will give you an update on the parks.
Thanks, George. So this Thursday, November 16th, in our nationally accredited award-winning park system at the Alfred B. Del Bello Muscoot Farm up in Katona, the Stroller and Cruiser Walking Group. This is the group that gets out a chance to have a person get out with their newborn child or toddler, join us for an early morning walk around the farm. We'll get a chance to see some animals, get some fresh air, and move around the barns. Again, that is on Thursday from 9 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. at Alfred B. Del Bello Muscoot Farm. Again, on Thursday, Art in the Park at Ward Pound Ridge Reservation up in Cross River. That's from 12 to 3. That's going to be Art in the Park, Testament to the Tree. This exhibit features a variety of media, including paintings, photographs, graphic design, and woodwork, as well as educational materials about trees. That's going to be daily until December 17th, again from 12 to 3. So daily from the 16th of November till December 17th. Park admission is free. Parking fees apply on the weekends only. And again, it's a good opportunity, again, at Ward Pound Ridge Reservation. Saturday, the 18th, from 9:30 to 11 a.m., right here in White Plains, in North White Plains at the Cranberry Lake Preserve. It's a hike, and that hike is, again, 9:30 to 11. Join us for a 1-mile loop. Hiking shoes are strongly recommended. Again, that's going to be a great opportunity to have a walk around in the parks. On November 18th, this Saturday again, up in Lenoir Preserve, down in Yonkers, we're going to have fireside storytelling. So it's going to be a chance to join us around a warm campfire for a fire building lesson and some great nature-related children's stories. It's going to be for people ages 2 and older, obviously not 2 for the fire building, but for 2 and older to have that fireside storytelling on November 18th. This Saturday, see the Westchester Knicks at the Westchester County Center. They won the first game, and I know the county executive was cheering folks on their first game back at the Westchester County Center. This Saturday, November 18th, from 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m., the Knicks are going to challenge the Delaware Bluecoats. Make sure you get those tickets online at countycenter.biz. I know that we have it going across the screen at the bottom of that little stream. Sunday, back by popular demand, the Reptile Expo. So Sunday, November 19th from 9 to 4, one of the fan favorites, the Reptile Expo, is back at the Westchester County Center. Make sure you check that out, and those tickets are available. Back to you, George.
Thank you very much, Ken. If you have reptile dysfunction, you can come to the county center and look at the reptiles of your choice and be part of the reopening of the county center. We played basketball, and now we have the reptiles there. Want to highlight that this is a celebratory time of the year. Just last week, we celebrated Veterans Day by honoring all of our veterans at a ceremony at Lasden Park. You'll see the video along with the other videos that we provide. We thank Ron Tochi and individuals from the veterans community to do that. And then Saturday was at the 11th hour, the 11th day of the 11th month, veteran services all across Westchester County. I was able to make a few, Ken went to a few, and over the course of the day really was a wonderful way to celebrate our veterans. Yesterday was the Festival of Lights for all of our Hindu brothers and sisters. They celebrated the Festival of Diwali. And there's a ceremony today happening down in Yonkers, 556 Yonkers Avenue. We're going to have a reception up here on Wednesday for members of the Indian American community, the South Asian community, and we want to wish all of them a very festive Diwali. And this is important because this Festival of Lights, as it is in most faiths and most cultures, the casting out of the darkness and the embracement of the light, which is part of all of our theologies and certainly the Hindu theology. So we extend that wishes to those who celebrate Diwali. We also want to highlight that we're going to be raising a flag very shortly to celebrate Albanian Independence Day. Albanian Independence Day, we will do this on Tuesday, November 28th at noon, right here in front of the county office building. We've done that for Irish, Italian, a host of other different entities, and we're very proud to do it on behalf of our Albanian brothers and sisters who live in Westchester County and have great pride over the Independence Day of their native country. Want to talk a little bit now about the budget, which we submitted last week. We really talked about this in a separate press conference, but let's just highlight a few things before we close our program. We have delivered, as of last Thursday, to the Westchester County Board of Legislators the proposed 2024 budget. We do operate in a calendar year fiscal year, so we have to have a budget in place by January 1st for the calendar year of 2024. The budget that we submitted to the board in the operating budget maintains the same county property tax levy as 2023. It is a freeze of the general tax levy for Westchester County. Also submitted are district budgets for sewer districts, water refuse districts. In some of those budgets, there have been increases. We shared this before. I want to make sure people don't misunderstand what I'm saying so they understand it clearly. If they want to misrepresent it, then they have to do that willfully. We have frozen the general tax levy this year, having cut that levy 4 straight years. And the general tax levy is one that all of us pay. There are some communities in Westchester County that are not part of any of the special districts, and the general tax levy is the final word in terms of their county obligations. For those that live in a sewer district area or their home community is part of the refuse district, then what they pay in sewer rates differs depending on the assets and the liabilities of each of those districts. So it's not a standard amount. You can't aggregate them and say it's been raised by a certain amount. Each district is a certain amount that applies to that individual. And in every case, the absolute numbers of dollars is much, much smaller than the general tax levy. So you need to look at your bill when it comes out next year, once the budget is completed, but you'll have a chance to take a look at this. The work that we've done fiscally for this county basically has gone unnoticed, except by the professionals. Tom DiNapoli, who is the state controller, had scored us as having zero stress, meaning zero threat of instability because of our fiscal situation. And the rating agencies have given us stable and positive ratings. The three agencies will be meeting with them shortly. Moody's, Standard & Poor's, and Fitch all gave us the second highest ratings, AA+ or AA1. That is up from having been downgraded at just as we took office for the period of time that ended in 2017. Some folks may find it counterintuitive given political affiliations, but both Ken and I have corporate backgrounds in some major U.S. corporations, so we have had the experience outside of our public setting of understanding what it's like to balance a budget, and with the professionals like Joan McDonald, Emily Saltzman, Larry Sewell, Karen Hablow, and so many commissioners, we've been able to deliver a budget that is workable. We are concerned that the state economic picture is darkening, and actions that are taken to balance the state budget may unbalance the county budget. We don't know what those decisions will be. We can't judge that. School districts are in the same position. Villages and town governments are in the same position. City governments. The state will do what it can do. It is the superior government to all of the other ones I've just mentioned, and we will have to react to whatever those initiatives are come late March and early April. But for right now, what we've submitted to the board now goes through board scrutiny. They are having public committee meetings in the board Budget and Appropriations Committee ongoing over the next few weeks. There'll be some public forums and settings. They'll announce when they are. You're certainly welcome to attend. Testimony is welcome, written as well as verbal testimony, and then the board will go through some significant actions. December 1st, Monday, December 4th, I should say, is a major day, Monday, December 4th for the board, and then on Monday, December 11th. And if we do our work well and we can come to some agreements, there'll be modifications to the budget, inclusions, maybe some subtractions, but at the end of the day, if we can agree and we have a budget adopted, I will sign it into law shortly thereafter. We'll have a budget in place as we start to go through the next year, which is one of the signs of fiscal stability. Other signs are things like not borrowing money to pay for ongoing expenses. Think of your home budget. If you have enough money in your paycheck or your other income that you have and you can pay the bills that you have in the month, then you know you're fiscally stable. If you have enough money to pay your bills and have money left over that you can put in the bank, then you're in a strong position. Some people are in a situation where they have to go to their assets, go into the bank savings account or liquefy an asset in order to have enough money to pay their ongoing bills. And when that happens, you have fiscal stress and you have problems. The whole house of cards can come down. Westchester County in this budget, as in the last couple of budgets, no borrowing to pay for pension costs, no borrowing to cover cash flow. You know, money's going to come in, but we don't have the money now, so we have to borrow money so we can pay our obligations now, knowing that cash flow will come in when the tax ratables come in May or sales tax comes in each quarter. We're not borrowing for tax certiorari's, which are rebates authorized by the court to individuals, businesses who overpaid property taxes, and no borrowing with one-shots. We don't sell something and the revenue from that covers our budget, and then next year what are we going to sell or how are we going to get the equivalent amount of money to make the budget balance? All of those things are looked at by fiscal analysts to determine whether or not this is a stable budget, and we believe we fit all of those different things. Our continuing initiatives include money, $11.4 million for health and mental health programs, our social service budget, $25 million for environmental initiatives, our housing budget, $90 to $100 million, some in capital, some in operations, economic development, tourism, and our MWBE program, almost $8 million set aside. We fully fund the police, emergency services, and all of those different areas. We also have some new initiatives for 2024. Ken will touch on which ones those are.
Thank you, George. And certainly for 2024, we have some great new initiatives, specifically in planning as we deal with flood mitigation. We added a director for flood mitigation and resiliency. We did some contractual things to make sure that we funded 2 nonprofit organizations, one in the northern part of the county, one in the southern part of the county, to provide assistance to families in need during relocation and recovery. And we have some other additional things in planning that we've done with consultants to help us to be able to help support the local municipalities and get jobs done quicker. So great initiatives in planning. In our county mental health, we're continuing on and doing some new initiatives in 2024, an outpatient clinic expansion where we're going to pilot a program to expand outpatient clinic capacity to address existing wait lists and capacity issues. That is a significant program to assist in trying to deal with some of the challenges that happen around mental health, specifically as we identified through Project Alliance. In housing, there's just tremendous amount of effort that the county continues to put in to fund housing authorities for necessary repairs of rental properties. And that's really important because the public housing authorities throughout the county provide that safety net housing, and we need to help support those folks so we don't get into a situation where they're into our county system, in the shelter system. And the Outstanding Eviction Prevention Assistance Program. So we are working through a great initiative that was advocated by so many people in creating the Office of Housing Counsel that will provide staff and contracts to help provide support during that process for prevention of evictions, as well as to do some things that are proactive to make sure that folks don't get to that situation at all. Finally, as far as emergency services and public safety program is concerned, our new initiative for the HERO program, that's HERRO, that's for our first responders. It's a scholarship program, and we increased from $500,000 to $600,000 to provide for those volunteer support people that are in our volunteer emergency services to get scholarships for the training that's necessary to do the jobs that are local in the community. And we added 2 new emergency services positions, a fire instructor and a program administrator for the grants, because there's so many grants out there, to make sure that we can get those funds to make sure we're able to not increase taxes and for 5 years in a row. Back to you, County Executive, and we have finally a new class of correction officers that are coming in, right, as well as $5 million for nonprofit funding that the Board of Legislators will work through for supporting our nonprofit partners. Back to you.
Thanks very much. So we've come to the end of our report today. Obviously, the budget is an ongoing situation. We invite you to interact with the Westchester County Board of Legislators directly on any questions you have. We hope to resolve whatever issues there are there and close that budget out, put us on a good footing. We are just shy of completing our 6th year as an administration in office. As you well know, I proposed a law which was passed that term limits county executives to 2 4-year terms. So 8 years is the maximum amount of time that a county executive may now serve. There were prior county executives that served for more than that, but from this point forward, 8 years will be the maximum. And we still have mountains to climb over the remaining 2 years, but I think we're showing a consistent commitment on fiscal policy. We're showing a commitment on social programming and services policy, progressive things. We're showing a commitment to improve infrastructure. We're showing a commitment to deal with some of the social ills that we have in the society in a practical way. And I think when you look at the totality of all of these things, some of it's summarized in the budget, some of it is summarized in legislation. But ultimately, the final test is Election Day. And while we were not on the ballot this year, our friends who were on the ballot, some had to defend a record that was attacked by the other side. It's a 2-party system, and you have to defend the things that you've done. And I think we came through once again with flying colors. People who may be critics of the things that we've done did not carry the day, and those of us who said we're going to continue on the path that we're on did in fact carry the day. But at the end of the day, it's still a democracy. It's still up to you to decide how you view these things. We are doing our dead level best running this county. I think we compare favorably to the counties around us and the counties of our equal size in New York State by having a very clear sense of vision and how we're going to continue to deliver on those things for you. You don't want to think about county government every day. You probably don't want to think about government at all every day. You want to live your life. You want to raise your family. You want to have an opportunity to have the best economics for your family, for your future that you have. And you know there's certain services that government provides. We should provide them as cost efficiently as we can. Nobody's perfect. We're not perfect, but we're certainly trying. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week again.